Hello, everyone. My name is Tamara Adlin, and this is my 20-minute UX Masterclass. I originally presented this at the BuildETH conference in May of 2023, and I wanted to make it available to everybody. This is going to be a little more than 20 minutes. I was talking so fast at BuildETH that it was hard to even understand me on the recording, so you guys get it a little bit slowed down. I call it a 20-minute UX Masterclass, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because you can't really become an expert on anything in 20 minutes. And I think the speed inherent in Web3 and all the projects in Web3 is a little bit of the problem when it comes to UX problems, but we'll get into that more later. So this is who I am, my bona fides, all the projects that I've worked on. I've been doing UX and I came up through the world of UX. I started in Web 1, I helped build Web 2, and I'm trying to bring some UX sanity and goodness to Web 3, and I'm very excited about that. I'm an advisor to Blockchain Ventures, both to the venture team itself and to the portfolio of companies, and also do a lot of work on my own. In the UX world, I'm known for my work in personas and early stage startups. So whenever I create a presentation, I think about it like a product. And if this is a product, then it has users and you are the users, right? So I need to know what you want and need out of this presentation. And here's my best guess. You want people to use your product. You're realizing that UX can mean more users. So you want more good UX for your products. You'd like really fast, instant improvement ideas and shortcuts. You want a bunch of best practices for Web3 and design primitives. That's what I was asked for in this presentation. And you want real examples of good Web3 UX that you can copy and bad examples that you can avoid. You really don't want to slow down and you want all of this in 20 minutes. So I'm going to give you some of that. Um, I know that you want real examples, and so I'm gonna show you some of those real examples, and I know you want this, but I know you need something else to get your your Web3 UXs really improved, and I'm gonna give that to you afterwards. So here is what you want. Good example. So here's a great example of a wallet that I think is more usable than most. And if you've heard me talk before, you know that I'm a little salty about wallets. So it's nice to be pretty positive about this one. This is Zengo. I don't have any professional relationship with them. I know some of the founders and I love them. And I love what they're doing with their wallet. Why is this good? Because it doesn't require me to create a 16-word passphrase as a new user who has maybe never been involved with crypto before. It doesn't ask me to store that passphrase into paper notebooks and hide one somewhere where it can't catch fire or to scrape it onto a piece of metal. All of the ironies of our world are really interesting. It's supposed to be the highest tech in the world, and yet we're telling people to keep themselves safe by creating copies of 2 paper notebooks and hiding them where they can't catch fire. It creates a recovery kit for you, and it has very friendly language. How do you want to get started? Buy crypto, receive crypto and NFTs, or explore the app. And it's getting even better quickly. So this is a change from even a couple weeks ago. And if you can spot it, the difference here is that little blue button that is right there at the bottom of the screen. And if you click it, it has all of the actions that you can take in the wallet, which may seem like an awfully simple thing to do. But given that what I'm going to show you as a comparison, it's actually pretty sophisticated. So putting all the verbs in one place is really useful, especially for people who are new to crypto and new to the idea of wallets. They need to know what they can do and what those actions actually mean. So this I call bad, but note it's bad patterns. These are not bad wallets. These are bad patterns that are everywhere in our industry right now. And I want to point them out because even the best wallets are using some of these patterns that I think are kind of working against us from a UX perspective. So the one on the left is Near, a very good wallet, very good project. And the one on the right is Phantom, also a great wallet because they're trying to make things more secure for users. But from a new user point of view, somebody who is in the masses, who is in that 1 billion that we want to onboard into crypto and into the world of Web3, these aren't so great. And they have what I call, if you know UX, and the great mystery, the riddle of the empty wallet. And that's one way that I assess projects and wallets. Look at their empty state before anything is going on in them. And is it clear what you can do, what you should do, and what's even available to do? So for example, in the Near wallet on the left, send, receive, top up, and swap. Actually, only one of these will work if this is your very first wallet in Web3. You can only top up. You have nothing to send, you have nothing to receive, and you have nothing to swap. And that's kind of a mystery, right? You have to click on those buttons to figure out which one actually works. Well, with Phantom on the right, it has 3 big blue buttons: deposit, buy, and send, and those look a lot more clear until you click into them and you notice that the user interfaces for all 3 of those buttons are almost identical. There's not even a label on the page. So if I click one of those, I lose all context of what it is that I wanted to do in the first place, and I certainly don't really have good instructions for how to achieve that thing that I thought I wanted to achieve in the first place too. So these patterns, I think, are not so great. Another bad pattern is what I call painful minimalism. Simple UI and simple to use does not equal sparse UI. Just because it doesn't have words on it doesn't make it easier to use. And there's a big thing in Web 2 that people don't read UIs, and that's true up to an extent. If they're confused and they don't know what they can do, they obviously will read some text. So here I've taken, again, I think this is near on the left, but again, it doesn't matter because this is all over. Most wallets are like this. They don't have much text on them. And on the right, I did a really fancy update to the UI just by adding words in red: transfer assets to your wallet using your public address. You can use this QR code or copy and share your account ID. And this one is interesting too, because Near uses the word account ID versus public address. And there's a really good brand reason to do that, which is they're trying to establish the Near wallet as able to be a sort of an account manager and manage a bunch of accounts and different projects on the Near blockchain, which is fantastic, except if you are new and you are looking for something called the public address in order to transfer assets, then suddenly this being renamed the account ID, and it really is a public address, is going to be confusing. So we also need to stop making up so many words. I think every time we have a new idea, we make up a new word, and I think it's potential to be really confusing to users. And if it's confusing, then it's not going to help with our brand identity and differentiation anyway. And what's getting better? Things are getting better. This is the Phantom wallet from November 2022 and then March 2023. And there's one big reason it's better, because FTX is no longer an option. But even more than that, or beside from that, look at the difference between the buy with MoonPay that's on the November version versus the March 2023. New, no fees, it says. And it has a description underneath of what each of these options is. So just even a little bit more text and choose a payment method, just adding some more words gives you a lot more sort of understanding of where you are and what you can do, which is a basic heuristic for digital product usability. Clarity is not a sign of technical weakness. I think in new technologies, it's always the case where those of us who know how things work early get a little protective and maybe a little gatekeeping of the technology. This is supposed to be a great equator of access, of ownership, and it's, technology for the people. And yet, we're making things that are technically very complex. They are a little technically elitist. They are actually a little privileged in the UI, privileged in the sense that those of us creating these UIs are in the top minuscule percentage of educated people in the world. And we're the only ones who can understand how these things work. So that's going to change over time, but it's also something to look at in yourself and your team. If you have the attitude that people should know how this works and they should be responsible for their keys, and if they don't know what's going on, that's their fault, it's not a good way to think about introducing new technology to the masses. So these are examples of Zengo not being afraid to use familiar words, even use an image that is of a shopping cart, which isn't even Web 1. This is like, what, 1940? I don't know when shopping carts were introduced. This doesn't make them look lame technically. This makes them look friendly, and it helps them understand that they are shopping for something and buying something, which is essentially, obviously, what they're doing. Rainbow Wallet, which is on the right, choose a payment option to buy crypto. These words, ratio and ramp, aren't necessarily very understandable to users, and I think there's room for improvement there, but at least there's some information on what these are and how they are different right there in the UI. Another sign of things getting better is what's going on in the zeitgeist. When I started in Web3 in 2017, there was not a lot of patience for any older ideas. There was not a lot of interest in UX best practices from Web 2. And that's starting to change now, because people are starting to understand that some of the lessons from the past are very relevant, because what we're doing is digital experiences, and digital experiences are not new. So this is a quote from Bravo CEO Madi Levy, and he was presenting at the Starkwave sessions in Tel Aviv. He said security should not be solely measured by its resilience to attacks, but also on the ease of adoption and level of protection against user errors. I think it's important to remember that when most people, the masses, hear about crypto, what they think about is some guy in the UK putting assets onto some little thing that he accidentally threw away and then having an argument with the town council or whatever it was to try to dig up a municipal dump to get $850,000 back that he threw away on this little, what we know was a cold wallet. That's what people have heard. And that's their perception of security in Web3. It doesn't matter how secure we know it is. If that security is not something that can be enjoyed, appreciated, and relied upon and easy to use for actual human beings, we're not secure at all. So now I gave you what you wanted, which was these real examples and shortcuts. And what you really need is the real answer to improving your own UX. That's pretty different than knowing what to copy from other people. So here's the big statement. UI and UX patterns, best practices, and primitives don't matter nearly as much as clarity, specificity, and super alignment in your team, your leadership team, your design team on who exactly you are building for, which problems your product will solve, how it's different than all the other products, and why users should care about those differences. You may have some cool technical difference between your main competitor, but if it's not something your user cares about or doesn't impact their lives, it's just some fancy technical trick, it doesn't matter, and it's not truly a differentiator. So the real story here is that I've been an expert in UI and UX. I've been like way up at the top of my field for 25 years. I know all the shortcuts, and the shortcuts are there really isn't a shortcut. You have to slow down to speed up. And the biggest competitive advantage that you can have is knowing your users and their wants and needs better than any of your competitors. That's something that's very hard to catch up with. It's easy to catch up with technical innovations. It's hard to catch up with a deep understanding of what it is you're doing for people, why that's a need they actually have, and how you're doing that in a unique way. So my job is strategy and UX, and that's what people hire me for. But what they really hire me for, and they don't know it, is for me to ask them and badger them with a bunch of annoying questions. And those annoying questions are pretty basic, but they're really hard to answer. What are your measurable goals for the project for, let's say, the next 3 months? They may be different than the measurable goals for the 6 months after that, because maybe you're raising money now and maybe you won't be later. So which needles do you have to move by how much to be successful in a time period? Who exactly are your potential users or customers? I'm going to get into that. What do they want to need? Which user do you have to absolutely delight if you're going to reach those measurable goals and move those needles the way you want to move them? What are you offering that no one else can? Why should your users care about that difference? And what do you need them to physically do? What are the verbs that you need them to do at each step of the journey, and can they actually achieve those? Let's take a look dive farther in. And I was like, okay, well, I want an example. Let's pick something famous that everybody knows about. So I picked OpenSea. I have no professional relationship with OpenSea. I have nothing against OpenSea. I think it's a very cool project, but everybody knows about it, so I picked that. So let's imagine that OpenSea hired me, which they're welcome to do. And let's pretend, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. Let's pretend that there's a measurable goal for OpenSea to increase traffic and sales by 20% over the next 6 months. Probably not far from the truth, right? Pretty fair assumption. And let's imagine they have a strategy for this to help popular non-technical people like artists or athletes or musicians or whatever, create and advertise NFTs for sale on our site on OpenSea to draw more mass market users. And by that, they probably mean people who aren't onboarded significantly or at all into crypto. So here's how I would attack that and how you can attack it in your own organization. This is the actual how. First of all, I would outlaw the word user. And I like to joke, very creative joke, user is a 4-letter word. The reason that you don't want to use the word users or mass adopters or fans or super fans or crypto native or small time collectors or any broad, although those last ones aren't so broad, but these broad descriptions of users is because they can mean different things to different people at different times. So if you use the word user a lot, it sounds like you're focused on your users, but you're actually not, because focus means very, very small target. And the smaller the target you create, the more likely you are to create a UI that delights people and doesn't just sort of kind of make them happy or okay. So I would create with them these want and need based quick alignment personas, I call them. They are created collaboratively, and you can create them quickly by creating lists of statements that start with the words I want and I need. So who have I created here? Serena, super new super fan. She's super new to crypto. She's the super fan. So let's imagine that she's somebody who wants to support her favorite artist or athlete. She's willing to jump through hoops to get their attention. She wants to show off her status as a super fan. She wants access to special stuff no one else gets. She's not yet into anything crypto-y, not yet. And I don't want to do anything that makes me feel dumb or at risk. And crypto currently does both. This is your mass market. This is your billion people yet to onboard. But now she has a name, Serena Superfan, and there are things that motivate her beyond just crypto for crypto's sake. She is a fan of somebody and she wants to follow them around, and she's willing to do some stuff, but she's also got some hurdles she has to overcome. We have to prove to her that she's going to be safe. Another user would be Egon Early Opportunity. I want to find great deals on NFTs for up and coming creators. I want to use all the cool features and tools in OpenSea. I want insider info when new stuff launches. I want to pay with one of my many wallets, and I want to keep all of my NFTs in cold storage. This is somebody experienced with NFTs. We might even call them a crypto native. They know enough about NFTs to look for undervalue one that they think through whatever algorithm they use in their brain, they're going to be worth more later. And they're probably already an existing user of OpenSea. So you get these annoying questions, and then you get to goals and personas, and that can lead you to a magical sentence. And this sentence can be magical for you and your team because it expresses super clarity and focus. Our primary goal is, in this case, to increase traffic and sales on OpenSea by 20% over the next 6 months. If we want to do that, if we don't make Serena super new super fan ridiculously happy, we won't hit that goal. Why Serena super new super fan? I'm just call her Serena super fan. Why do we need to delight her? Well, because Egon's already on there, and expecting our existing users, he's one of our types of existing users, to increase our sales and NFT posts by 20% is a big lift, because we've already done a lot of stuff probably to increase their engagement on the platform. We need some new blood. So that's outlaw the word user and replace it with want and need based quick alignment personas. They're alignment personas because they allow you and your team to align on who you're focusing on. Then what do you do with those? Well, you can use the personas and some basic heuristics to take a fresh look at the experiences that you are creating and that your competitors are creating. And I had some fun thinking about this slide. And what I've done here is put up Serena and Egon, and next to them, I have put up Jakob Neilsen's UX heuristics from 1994. I know there's a resistance to old stuff in the world of Web3, and it's changing, but these heuristics from 1994 are basic guidelines for what you have to do to make digital experiences make sense to human beings. And we're all doing that too. And you can read these all for yourself, and I'll include links to them also. I'm going to focus on two examples. One is speak the user's language, and another one is consistency and standards of language between um, different types of applications. So if we call something public ID in one place, maybe changing it to account ID in another place may not be a great idea unless we explain it. And part of this consistency and standards heuristics is what's called Jacob's Law, which I think is really smart, which is people spend most of their time using digital products other than yours. They do not spend all their time with your app or DApp or project or whatever up on their screen. And we tend to forget that. And there's a lot of great information there that you can use to make your products better. So let's take a look. What I did was I went into Google and I searched on, I just launched on OpenSea, and I found some random artist. His name is Voronkov, right? And here's a pretend post that he might make on Instagram. I'm just launching NFTs on OpenSea. And if Serena Superfan is already a fan of Voronkov, right? She'd be like, oh, cool. I'm not interested in anything crypto-y, not yet, and I don't want to do anything that makes me feel dumb, but I do have these other wants and needs to support Voronkov, to get their attention and to have things that no one else have that make me willing to click on this link and see what's going on, right? This is an opportunity to onboard her into OpenSea and into crypto. So now let's take a look. I went to Voronkov's page. Again, I don't know anything about this person, just found them through a Google search. And this is a musician or DJ who has 3 NFTs that they launched at some point on OpenSea. And what you can see here is that their artist page is relatively blank. The main call to action is clear, right? There's really only 1 or 2 or 3 blue things that you can click on here. I think it could be even a little clearer. But what are the words on it? The words are make offer. Serena didn't come here to make an offer. She came here to buy an NFT. So that is a language mismatch, right? When she clicks on it, it says connect your wallet. If you already have a wallet, that's no problem. If you're new, like Serena Superfan and a very attractive target to OpenSea, this isn't going to make much sense. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt and say that Serena is going to click on these many different options down here. And there are a few that are called out as easy or popular, and that's great. If she clicks on a couple different options for creating a wallet, this is what she sees. And this is a great example of Jacob's law. Look at all of these different interfaces and calls to action and value propositions and differentiators and just plain designs that she gets when she clicks all these options to create a wallet. This is cacophony. This is a lot to process, and she doesn't really know where to start. I'm not saying that all wallets should have the same design for onboarding, but keep in mind, this is the environment into which we're throwing her. This is a huge opportunity for one of these wallets to say, we are the very best first wallet for you if this is your very first time. Phantom says we're the friendly multi-chain wallet, which might encourage her to come over, but Phantom is friendly really if you already know how wallets work. It's not optimized, in my opinion, for brand new crypto people. Okay, so I think that this leaves her a little confused. So if we ask, is OpenSea good UX, right? That's what you're asking. Is our stuff good UX? Can we improve it? Well, it really depends. If you're looking at it from the perspective of Serena Superfan, there's a lot of heuristics that come up red on here. If you're looking at it from the perspective of Egon Early Opportunity, who's willing to sort through, he understands NFTs, he understands the opportunity of NFTs, and he's willing to dig through the underbrush to find the good ones, it probably is a good UI. So there are no best practices or patterns necessarily because it completely depends on who you're building it for. And if that's the case, then again, the real power comes from understanding those people. So the answer here would be, if our goal is to increase by 20% and we think the best people to do that are people we haven't onboarded yet, then no. Right now, I would say it's not the best it could be, and there's a lot of chances to make it a lot better. Let's look at a competitor. So let's look at NBA Top Shot. NBA Top Shot looks a lot better from the outset. Buy a pack, a $10 intro pack. Well, that's easy. It has the word, but and maybe she's the fan of an athlete or something, and she goes and heard about NBA Top Shot. She's like, I want to try it out. They're like, here's a great way to try it out. Buy a $10 pack. Okay, I'll buy a $10 pack. Well, you always have to look at the end-to-end experiences, not feature by feature, especially in Web3, because in Web3, as we'll see, your user experience might depend on a lot of other projects' user experiences as well. So let's take a look. In the first 4 screens, it's pretty easy. Buy a pack. The step-by-step, it's loading, it's almost ready, right? And it looks really good from Serena Superfan's perspective, especially compared to the OpenSea similar example that we looked at before. But here's where things get a little not so great. As soon as she gets past that last screen, identity check is required. We know what this is. We know this is KYC. Serena doesn't know what this is. Serena's trying to buy a $10 intro pack of something, and I need an identity check. Let's get you started, and now let's take a look at what happens on the very next screen, and I can really let this speak for itself. Look at all of these ID types she's asked for: a passport card, permanent record. These are all things Serena, the masses, the billion, have been told never, ever, ever to share online, and she needs to do that now to buy a $10 intro pack. Sharing my passport is an expensive ad. It is not worth it for a $10 intro pack, and we have lost the chance to onboard Serena. right? Which was a golden chance. And now I know what you're going to say, but we have to have them connect a wallet. There's no way around that. And to this, I get a little grumpy. And I call bullshit on this. Listen, you people who are watching this are among the most creative technical minds. You've created wallets, you've created Web3, you're continuing to create on Web3 and blockchain. You know how to do lots of things. Saying that you have to connect a wallet for a $10 intro pack or one NFT from an unknown artist, if you can't fix that problem, I don't know who can. And one of the projects I do work with is called Scent. I've known them and been with them for a long time. This is their experience for Serena Superfan. Maybe she comes to the Cheryl Fox artist page. The actions, both subscription and collect, take her to a call to action to subscribe. This is not an expensive ask. This is not like asking her for her passport image. She enters her email. She has a magic link. Magic links aren't great, but they're a lot easier than KYC. And then all of a sudden, hey presto, the second that she subscribed, within a couple clicks, that was added to her collection, whatever thing she wanted to collect. She gets 3 out of the 5 of the free NFTs for the day. She's starting a collection. She has a wallet, you and I know that, but she doesn't need to know that. And the whole issue of self-custody, all this other stuff, it really goes away if you're talking about Serena, who's just collecting a few random NFTs to try things out. Later on, she can graduate from the easy, the non-secure or non-custodial wallets or whatever, if she learns enough and feels like this deep desire to personally own her keys. But until then, we shouldn't stop her from dipping her toe in the water. Okay, so here's the deal. You guys watching this, and women are inventing lots of big, giant stuff like money. You don't have to reinvent the software design and development process. You can't reinvent or really even shortcut that much user-centered design because you can't reinvent people. Those of us who come up through Web 1, Web 2, and through the last 20 years of technology development, Web 3 is a new technology, but we've introduced lots of new technologies to people, and people don't change that fast. They really don't. So the things that help people understand technology are still the things that you can use to help them understand Web 3. Right? But it's not going to be by copying all the other people in Web3, because there's people copying each other, but that doesn't mean they have best practices. They're just sort of following each other around right now. So if you take the time and you really understand the people you're going after, and the way you can do that is through answering some basic but very difficult questions, then design best practices and things become a little less relevant, because you can look at everything through the eyes of the most important users who are going to help you hit your metrics. So when I presented this live, I said, take a picture of this slide. These are all the hard questions that I like to joke my clients appreciate. You put an H in the middle of appreciate and it becomes appreciate. The magical sentences here. And there's more free resources. Mac Budkowski.com. I met him at ETH Denver, and he's amazing. He has a free resource on how to explain Web3 products. You should go and get it off of his site. It's amazing. And use it for an offsite with your team. He goes through and shows lots of examples of the good, the bad, and the ugly in Web3 landing pages to explain Web3 products to customers and users. If you go through his guide as an offsite, it'll be life-changing for your team, or hire him to help you out. Jakob Neilsen's 1994 heuristics, among other things, are at the nngroup.com. I have a bunch of stuff on my site, Adlin Inc. I also have my ETH Denver talk, which is more details and more complaining about wallets. And I'm developing my own list of heuristics for Web3, but they're not done yet. So I'll show you a little bit. I'll give you a preview. Are you making the UX easy by making the UX sparse? Are you casually asking people to do things they've been told to never do online? Are your warnings terrifying? And on and on. So if you'd like more information about this, feel free to reach out to me, add your comments, and I'm always delighted to talk about UX in Web 2, Web 3, or any technology. So thanks, and I'll see you soon.